Order, please. Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a roll call.
Mayor Hassler.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Alderwoman Johnson. Here. Alderman Donovan.
Here.
Alderman Jokers.
Here.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Here.
Alderman Prince. Here. Alderwoman Armbruster. Here. Mayor Quorum.
Very good. Move for approval of the agenda. Move approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Takes us down to our city administrator's report.
Got an updated report at your seats. Item 6, G-Works is going to start, or is going to discontinue what we call the modules or the programs that allow us to do ACH, which is how we automatically pull money out of people's checking accounts to pay for their water bills. So we have no choice in this. I mean, they're just pulling that and everything that's associated with it. So we're going to send letters out after either after Christmas or after the holidays, just to let people know, because this has been a good program. We've got about 500 people that have signed up for it. But without that option, then they'll either have to sign up for front desk and use that as how they pay their bills, or have to pay by check or cash, if they don't want to pay the extra fees, because your credit card and e-checks all include a small fee. So, but we're going to lose that option. Because of the accounting software, we don't have really anybody else to go with to do that. So we're going to have to make that change. They did say January 1st on the email I got at the beginning of the week. After getting probably 500 phone calls from other cities, they've now put it off till April. So we have a little time to get the word out. Item 7, Senator Blunt is introducing legislation that will expand the boundaries of the Park Service now, and that will include the Welcome Center. So if that is approved, maybe no telling how long that will take, that puts us in line to where we can look at transferring that to the Park Service. So that's one of the major items that has to change. It was not brought in with the original boundaries. So we'll see if that eventually goes through. It'll probably be attached to some other legislation and then pass. Any questions on anything else?
Is that, is that all encompassing the property, or is it just taking that particular piece?
They're probably looking at also bringing in the Green Tree, and they're looking at some other properties to expand. All I know on is what I got from one of his assistants, is that it was the Welcome Center that they were talking about in particular with me. So It may be other pieces, but that's all I know about. Okay.
Hey, thanks, Larry. Takes us to David. You're up. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, David.
You've got my report there. Heritage Commission will meet this month, have a couple applications, so just an FYI there. And then our January and February meetings, if you want to tune in, will be the 4th Mondays instead of the 3rd Mondays. And just wanted to point out down at under their rental housing, the Advisory Commission hasn't met because we really haven't had topics to discuss, but we do keep a list of an updated list of rental housing on our city website now for those who want to move or move to town. Divides it out by number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, so it's pretty handy. Any questions?
David, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
You all have my report. Is there any questions on it?
Steve, the tree that was removed, what was the reason for that, the one on Main Street?
Just pushing the sidewalk up.
Okay,
Plus, it was dying, too.
it was, okay.
Yeah, the homeowner brought it to my attention.
Okay,
Originally, she didn't want it removed, but it started dying, so she
Gotcha.
asked.
all right, thank you. The sidewalk looks nice. I mean,
Yeah,
that seemed to be a quick job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You guys do any patching this time of year?
Yes, we talked to the asphalt company yesterday, and they are still making hot and cold mix for about another 2 weeks, they said. We plan on getting another load next week, so. We're going to hit some potholes in the International subdivision and then some other locations, including the 2 holes on Market and one on Robert Street.
I'll give it, I got a couple.
Okay.
My name, another Louis for Scott.
Yeah.
You think that needs
Just a comment, I think get some good feedback on the trailers through Old Pierre Marquette.
Oh, yeah.
Valley Springs Park, they look good.
Yeah, we were also out there at Valley Springs Park. There's a couple trees on the backside by the bridge that we're going to have to take down, so.
Good job with Christmas too, it's spectacular, good job.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of manpower and a lot of work to make that happen, so.
Indeed.
I was kind of worried when it went over. Those are some of the little things that, boy, nothing got dropped. So kudos and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass it along.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Steve, somewhere in this report, I read, I thought that you had collected some metrics on water line, on pressure. Did I read that correctly?
You mean, hydrants?
Yeah, so
about
that's where I'm going with that, is because on the night we toured fire station,
Oh, yeah?
I asked the question about the color coding of the hydrants.
Right.
I'm just kind of following up to see if we're all accurate. Or is-
One portion of town, the entire town was accurate. Now, everything above North Cabaret Creek, those are actually going to be underrated. So if it's red, it could be green or orange even. But we won't know those flows until the creek crossings get replaced.
rough
So-
idea, timeline on when we'll know that and
Next year,
next year?
yeah, 2022. Once the next phase of the water line project goes through, we'll reflow everything and color code everything accordingly.
Okay.
But as of now, we're going to leave the color codes the way they are because they're underrated. So if they hook up to a hydrant that's red, expecting, full 500 gallons or less, they may get 750 or 800 or 900. But I don't want to I don't want to paint them those colors and them think they have a guaranteed amount of water when they don't, until we know that for sure.
Okay, and so and now that's under your shop in one form or another, either as Alliance Water Resource, you would repaint those, or the street department, who's going to repaint those?
Alliance Water Department.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you, sir.
See, does Cochran gave us a timeline for electrical things at the power plant?
Spoke with Cochran today. Brian said they requested motor sizes, actual motor sizes of the motors inside the plant, so they can get their equipment comparable to the equipment that we have. So they said that was pretty much the last thing they needed before they would get a final report to us.
So in real time and stuff, by the time we get this and get it out for bids and, work starts, any idea or?
Not till we see the report, so we'll see where we're at then. Can't really speak for them, so.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Kenny's not here tonight, unable to be here. You all got his report. I can't answer questions. Happy to be able to. Well, Eric's here tonight, so we'll let him speak.
Good evening. Evening, Chief, everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Don't have too much to report. Probably the best thing on the report is Pete's coming back. Actually
Yeah.
came back to training Tuesday, Wednesday, and today. He's actually scheduled for his work steps tomorrow and is scheduled to be back on duty Monday. So we're excited to have him back and certainly let him ease into things and get back in the swing of things. So other than that, like I said, I've been gone to training all week, so I've kind of been out of pocket. But does anybody have any questions or comments?
So he will be on full duty?
He'll be on full duty. He's been released for full duty, so he'll get his work steps tomorrow, which, by our policy, he's been out long enough that he'll require that. And then he was released with no restrictions, assuming everything goes well. I mean, once he actually gets out and starts doing stuff, if he has complications, he'll check back with his doctor and, may need to modify something. But as of now, he's been released, so. Excited to have him back.
Meeting
Training it.
next?
It was through MAC, but it was in Fredericktown, so it was just a continuing education course, so.
Do what?
Couldn't we bring Pete into that next meeting and stuff? I think-
Yeah, I talked about having him here tonight, but since we got out of class as early as we did, I
Right.
didn't want to drag him up here and have him wait for a few hours for that, but we'll definitely schedule that when he's here to have him come in, so. Were you able to get over there yesterday and get the stuff from Eric?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Our tourism report's next. You got the, Jeff couldn't be here?
I am playing the part of Jeff Wicks tonight.
Congratulations.
My voice is a little bit higher. So the Museum Learning Center has their grand opening this Saturday, 11 o'clock. Everybody's invited down to the museum center, so if you want to see how that ribbon cutting is going to go, that's about, I think about an hour long is what they're anticipating.
What?
I think you're talking about 3 hours, aren't you?
3 minutes.
Good job, man.
So the story about and Jeff wanted me to try to say the dinosaur's name, but I told him, no, I got to try. I embarrassed myself enough. But the word has gotten out, and you can see the list of magazines that it's been in, plus news outlets. So
I saw it on Channel 4 News.
Yeah.
On the Post-Dispatch, too.
So it's fairly exciting.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get that word out. Post-Thanksgiving weekend, we had about 2,800 people that came into town. That's a pretty good weekend for shopping and because we didn't have any particular activity planned. Then the next weekend with the Holiday Christmas Festival, Jeff talked to a number of people trying to get an average of how many people were in town, and they're estimating about 12,000 people, so 9,000 on Saturday for the parade and all the activities, and 3,000 on Sunday for those activities. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I know that the shop owners that I talked to on Saturday said they were slammed. It was really busy. And we have folks from out of state, so our advertising is helping. So speaking of advertising, going down to Facebook, we have now combined 3 different Facebook pages to kind of register the numbers. So you'll see a significant amount of post reach. That's because of putting them together. So one thing is when it's published on one website, or one Facebook page, it's published on all 3 now. So everything's going to be combined from here on. It just took a while to get all that coordinated.
Oh, but there are still 3.
Yeah. Yeah. That way, because some people have associated themselves with that particular Facebook page, so we hate to eliminate that.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it as is. So you see a little bit of bump up for the week. I think that's the numbers to look at. So 3% were up. After the Christmas festival, the numbers went down, so our 2030 is off 1%, but that's kind of through our big weekend. Everybody just we didn't keep that level going. And then you see where we have new page likes and page views were up. So we're getting some traction with the stuff that's on Facebook. If you haven't seen it, Jeff does a great job putting those together. They're animated, they're good quality, and they're interesting. And I think people are catching that and latching onto it and passing that along. And that's what we want.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any questions?
Looking good. Very good. Takes us to our COVID discussion. The numbers are rising. Still, I think it's at 6.6 now this week.
Numbers are up. Average cases right now, as of yesterday, were 5. We had bounced around between 5 and 6 one day. It did go up to 10, but that was just one day. So the numbers are still below our metric on when to require masks, but yeah, so they're up from where we were down around 1 or 2. So we'll keep watching it.
Okay. Anything else on that? Very good. Any committee reports?
Yeah, Park Board to go. There's not going to be a December meeting because of the way it falls with the holidays. But at the November meeting, the board discussed whether or not to move forward with the Rome group for professional fundraising consulting. And at this time, we're not going to sign a contract with them or anything, but still want to look to keep that relationship for the future. It's just a lot of upfront costs that we're just not there yet to be able to steadily support it. So, but the board agreed that it would be something good to revisit in the future with the Rome group specifically. So that's all I've got right now.
How did you come up with that group?
We sent out an RFQ for it. We had some recommendations from a board member that has some professional experience with parks in the past, and so we sent out an RFQ and it was posted, and I believe they were the only ones to submit, but they've got a lot of experience and a connection that we can trust, so. Got quiet.
Sorry.
How many members do you still need?
We're at 8 right now, and it's a 9-person board by Missouri statute. So still looking for at least one more. So we'll see. I've got a couple people that I've talked to that might potentially be interested in the new year, but we'll go from there.
Thank you. All right, any other reports? Okay, any public comments?
I guess that's me. My turn to speak.
Unless you want to save it for the work session.
Work session.
We're gonna,
Well, that's kind of my question. Okay.
yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
wait till then. That's good.
Good, thank you very much. Takes us down to the consent agenda.
Approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Very good. So at 6:16, we're going to do a public hearing. The mayor and the board will conduct a public hearing, which time citizens may be heard on the proposed water sewer rates to be set by the Board of Aldermen as shown below.
Motion. By our calculation, go ahead. I didn't know if you wanted some explanation. So by our calculation, we've been doing this for the last probably 6 years, going up 2%. If you hold off, then eventually you're going to have to raise it more. So if you stay at 2%, we're below what CPI is for water, sewer, trash. So that's about 3.8% over the last year. So we're at least holding it down, but our costs are going up. We just got a notice today from Mississippi Lime that their rates are going up. So you know freight's going to be going up on other items as well. But we're still trying to keep it, if we keep doing this, I think we stay level and we can fund what we need to fund in the departments.
And you said we've been doing this consistently for about 6 years?
6 years, yeah.
And do we look to continue to do this indefinitely or?
At this point, yes, because of the projects that we need to work on over the next.
Yeah, I
10
just couldn't
years.
remember if it was like part of like a 10-year plan or something like that, because that's what I thought was kind of roughly explained to me, like that it was a set number of years and then hopefully we could pause the increases, but that would make up for, so I was just trying to get some clarity on that.
So the 10-year plan did not specify this, so we have to look at it separately, but because we have that,
Yeah.
those improvements that we need to do, that's why we recommend the 2% increase.
Yeah.
If there's no more comments, we will close the public hearing at 6:18. Very good, thank you. Takes us to old business. The second reading of bill number 4462, an ordinance of the city of St. Genevieve, Missouri, amending the personnel manual as set forth below.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 4462 now becomes ordinance 4383.
Thank you. Takes us to new business. First reading of bill number 4464, an ordinance of the city of St. Genevieve, Missouri, amending municipal code, chapter 715, user charge systems, specifically section 715.040, user charge rates, subsection A and B, by revising the water use charges.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion for second reading of bill number 4464.
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Okay, takes us to the second reading of Bill Number 4464, an ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve, Missouri, amending Municipal Code, Chapter 715, User Charge System, specifically Section 715.040, User Charge Rates, subsections A and B, by revising the water use charges.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Have a roll call, please.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 4464 now becomes ordinance 4384.
Thank you. Takes to the first reading of Bill Number 4465, an ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve, Missouri, amending Municipal Code, Chapter 715, User Charge Systems, specifically Section 715.140, Sewer Charges and Billing, subsection D, by revising the sewer use charges.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for a second reading of bill number 4465.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second reading of Bill Number 4465, an ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve, Missouri, amending Municipal Code, Chapter 715, User Charge System, specifically Section 715.140, Sewer Charges, and Billing subsection D, by revising the sewer use charges.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Have a roll call, please.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 4465 now becomes ordinance 4385.
Thank you. Takes the first reading of Bill Number 4466, an ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve authorizing payment number 3 to Donzi Construction Incorporated for the remodel of the City Police Department and basement in the amount of $68,132.84.
Motion to, second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion for a second reading of bill number 4466.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second reading of Bill Number 4466, an ordinance of the City of St. Genevieve authorizing payment number 3 to Donzi Construction Incorporated for the remodel of the City Police Department and basement in the amount of $68,132.84.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A roll call, please.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderwoman Armbruster.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Eidman.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderwoman Johnson.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 4466 now becomes ordinance 4386.
Thank you very much. Is there any other business? If there's no other business, we'll call this meeting adjourned. And we will... Approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve, John.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go, Happy.
All right, Dave, here we go. Now we're ready.
Sorry about that.
So you
Good evening. Most of you probably know me by now. My name's David Schwartz. I own the building that Subway resides in, the commercial building that is unfortunately too close to the drainage ditch that runs in between that building and the Point Base Apartments. The drainage ditch and the inlets into the ditch that come off of Portage Street are starting to erode and deteriorate the other hillside, causing concern for me because it's actually starting to pull soil away from the building. I don't know if we have any, oh, Happy's got some pictures. So the outlet, if you were on the building side looking towards the outlet, you would see the outlet is pretty much directly across from it. Now, I was told, and I'm under the impression, the understanding that the gabion, the shot rock that was placed on that hillside directly across from them storm outlets was placed by the city whenever they redid Portage Street. Now, Steve, you may know more about that than what I do. We kind of had a little bit of a discussion after the meeting last time, but that was my impression, because if you looked at it, it was placed strategically across from them on the two outlet sides. Obviously, it's starting to wash away from the bottom. It's pulling the bottom out and bringing the top along with it. There is not much of a maintenance agreement, but there was a maintenance agreement put in place back in 2015. Does that sound right?
I think so.
2013, yeah. The 26th of March, 2013. And I'm assuming that's about the time frame when they redid Portage Street. And this agreement was put into place between Point Base Apartments and the city. My property is not on this agreement, I will say that. The maintenance agreement is a little vague. I mean, we could argue over verbiage on it. Obviously, you guys have legal counsel here that could probably put some better information on it. I do have an email from Mr. Toma in the past, who we had problems before and they had fixed it. And this email here, he agreed to fix it. And the agreement was, we will move forward with the repairs and I will cover the material expense myself. This was put out there. It was given to Gary Roth. Gary and I talked back and forth for a long period of time, and it never got fixed. That's when I gave up talking to Gary and came to talk to Happy, and then that's what brought me here.
What was supposed to be fixed?
The ditch. Gary was waiting for it to freeze. We had a wet winter. He never got in there. I mean, this dates back to 2018 when I reached out to Martin Toma and was told that they were going to fix the ditch. And it says right here, I could show you the guys, let's move forward with the repairs and I'll cover the material expenses. Luckily, I kept the email. So again, I bring up the question, is there any way that the city would help maintain the ditch? It takes a lot of flow. There's a lot of drainage that goes through that ditch. I know you guys have done studies recently just because the amount of problems that we've had in the area, so I'm sure that we have a good idea of the amount of drainage that goes through there. Not only that, the amount of drainage I'm sure that comes off of Portage Street that directly pushes straight into that hillside. Again, I'm asking for assistance. I'm asking for the maintenance agreement. I mean, I was told previously that it was in the agreement, and obviously Mr. Toma agreed with me before he left.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
On this picture right here.
Yeah.
That erosion that's up on top up there, that's not coming from, that's coming from the water's coming off of either that building or the top coming down that hill.
It is.
So that's, I don't see in that, I don't have, and I know where that sewer, I don't see how that affects that, other than, it looks to me like there's a lot of good riprap down there, but this, they shortchanged it, whoever put all the riprap on that to begin with. I don't think there's enough shot rock put in there to hold that.
I mean, there is a little bit of water that collects there. I mean, it's obvious. And if
a lot of water, that's a pretty good ditch coming down through there, coming out of there. So that's coming off that building or off the top. Now, I hadn't been there in a hard rain, so I don't know. But that erosion's coming from the top.
And I'm not going to argue with that, but I would like to make the statement known that if the rock hadn't fallen down into the ditch, that erosion would not be there.
Yeah, it's debatable, but
yeah,
I mean, you understand. I'm just looking at, there's water coming that's got to be stopped somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
From the top that's coming down there. Now, I don't know where it's coming from. If the gutters, because I looked at your gutters on that building, you got a gutter out here that goes off into the ditch, and then a gutter down here. But there's something on the outside of that building on this side. I don't know what that is. It's a box. Is that a gutter too? Is that a scupper? Or it's nothing?
No, there's right where that erosion is, right on the corner of the building, there is a gutter downspout. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of where everyone's picture is up there in the corner.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll be able to zoom
That's
in.
part of the that gutter's down past that though.
Right, it's right, it's actually on the
I don't know
back
what
side of the building.
How that water's getting,
It's gonna be here.
yeah, that's where the gutter is, and your erosion is that whole corner's dipping over there for some reason.
Right.
So there's water, and it don't look like, it could be coming off that parking lot. Well, with the grade, I didn't go all the way around that. I don't know where the water's coming from, but it's coming from the top. That needs to be corrected.
Oh, yeah.
Before, you can put all the shot rock, you can put rock in there, but if it's gonna erode underneath it, I know a little bit about erosion in the riverbanks, so, yeah, that's a problem up there, so.
It isn't the prettiest hillside.
No.
It's not. And that's my concern. It's not getting any better. And
No, it's, And now, where's this pipe coming from? Is that from your parking lot?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So that's coming off the parking lot, so that must take a lot of water. It's a pretty good sized pipe they put in there.
Paul,
Yes.
I'd like to ask a legal question and stuff, and this is, not saying I'm in favor or not in favor of maintaining this ditch and stuff, but this agreement was done between the city and Point Base Development, which is no longer the owner of those apartments. I mean, is this even still a legal document? Because Point Base Development.
Well,
Do we know for sure that Point Base isn't the current owner
Yes.
of that?
so generally, I'm not gonna wanna give legal advice in a public setting that has to do with disputes between property owners or potential disputes between property owners. But generally, if you have a water maintenance, I'll say generally, if you have a maintenance agreement, it runs with the land. So that's going to presumably be recorded with the recorded deeds office. It's going to run with the land, and then who the owner is, or subsequent owners. Generally, you're going to have that provision in the agreement that it's going to go to the successors of interest. So, but I'm not going to give you advice about what your responsibilities are with regard to this ditch in a public setting. I'm just not going to do it. I will give the advice to Happier, the mayor, and the board, in a confidential communication, but I'm not going to do it in a public meeting. Having said that, there would be nothing to stop you if you wanted to take on the responsibility for it or make repairs or whatever. You can allocate those funds if you wanted to. But I'm not going to give you an opinion as to how I view this agreement and what our responsibilities are relative to a property owner, because it could end up in litigation, and we're not going to have that out there.
Thank you.
So, sorry.
Would the city have any consideration in taking over the ditch? Right now, it's owned, obviously, half of it by myself, the other half by the Ewings, whatever they're calling the Point Base Apartments now. I know that they would be more than happy to hand that property over. I don't know if the city would have any interest in taking it.
Typically, in years past, when the city assumed any kind of property such as that, it has to be brought up to standards before it is accepted. So that's what we've always maintained since I've been on the board.
And with anything that runs through private property, we have possession of only one piece, and that's in the Point Base subdivision, that large area that goes to the sinkholes. That's the only area that we have for stormwater that we possess.
Now, this is just a through route going through.
Yeah.
So it's not actually, it's stormwater, but stormwater goes through there,
But all the other areas where there is stormwater goes through private property. I mean, it goes across people's yards and fences and.
Yeah.
What would it need to be? What would need to be done to have it?
Well, I honestly, what I would ask of you, if the city was willing to negotiate or work with me, would just be to maybe split either the labor or the material, and not to do the whole hillside, obviously, just the sides, just the spots that are across from the outlets, just the spots that what I myself would honestly say is a liability of the city, and that's it. Now, I do want to line that entire hillside, but that would be on me, right? So the only thing that I would ask for is those two areas across from the outlets where, in my mind, I would think that there'd be some liability from the city for dumping the stormwater
And
into it.
we don't know that financial impact.
I have some bids, but the bids were pretty far apart. And I was just talking to Steve about that. One of the bids is from my brother-in-law. He was the cheaper one. It's a side job, and I did get a bid from Bowman's, and they were about $16,000. Now, the $16,000 was to line the entire ditch. That was labor and material. I can break it down to Happy or the mayor, whoever would like to see it. I do not have a printout. I have it on an email, in an email.
I'm not in favor of taking over the ownership of that ditch, I'll tell you that right. I'm not at all.
Big can of worms.
I think it was turned down previously, too.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea, because then you got a building sitting on that ditch, I think that's just,
Well, and
I wasn't here when that was all made, our point every put in, but
and especially if that is.
I do agree, there's an agreement that the city keeps that right of way clear for water to get through there. That, yeah, I think that's a good thing for us to do, to get water through. And that was in that agreement, that we keep the ditch clear with
Right.
not only debris, but the grass and everything else.
Yes.
So, and we've been doing that, so.
Will there be a way to divert the outlets from Portis to where they don't go straight out and hit the side,
My question.
and put it more at an angle to where it goes out along with the flow instead of hitting his?
I truthfully, looking at the amount of water when it hits, I cannot see, and being over there, how those outlet, now, I've never witnessed in a rain how much water comes out of those outlets, but it can't be that much pressure shooting across there. The damage is coming from water going that way. Those outlets are, I don't think they're way over here, and the water, if you're losing riprap over there, it's because the ditch, the waters, it's coming out of there, and I got paid, it's pretty.
Well, you've also got the water that is moving from 32 to 61
That's more of the problem, is the water
being
coming through the
pushed.
ditch rather than those outlets right there. That's where your problem is, so. And taking all the debris out, it's gonna make it worse, because it's gonna flow faster, and it's gonna pull everything with it, Because if you come up there, somebody built a wall there to stop the water, to slow it down when it goes through there. There's a big wall, it's like a dam, it's open on this side, and there's like a dam there. That big, you know where I'm talking about, that big rock wall.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a big crack in it right now. And one of these floods, it'll go, so.
It seems, I get what you're saying, but the outlets straight across from there, it cannot help.
Well, it's not helping, but I don't think where they're at, that it's not even getting over there. That water can't jump across that ditch. It's staying on this side of the ditch when it goes down there. The problem is the water flow going through the ditch. When you go up there and look at that, when that pipe on 32 that's a 4-foot by 5-foot pipe, it's just full coming through there. There's a lot of water coming down through there, and it'll move rock. Water has got tremendous force. That rock that's nothing for that water to move.
Oh, I completely agree with
It needs to be this
that.
big if you really want to stop it. Some big riprap.
Yeah.
So. It's under rock. It was under rock to begin with, so.
Is that a metal culvert pipe coming out there, and what is that slab of concrete?
I'd have to look at what you're looking at, I'm sorry.
Yeah. There is.
Yeah, that's just to hit the water.
Right, it's a metal slab of concrete. I don't know if it's supposed to be placed like that. But
Apparently, they place that like that to keep the water from eroding underneath, I
And
guess.
slow it down a little bit.
It's starting to do that now, though, because it's open now and it's going down in there. I think most of your water is, that's a problem right there.
I don't know. I've never been there on a heavy storm, but
I'd love to see that. I'd love to be there and see how much water comes out of those.
By just looking at it and observing it, you look right across, and that's where the riprap was staged, and that's where it's falling out.
I'm just
So-
telling you, the riprap's moving when the water's going this way.
Oh, yeah.
Not from that.
Right.
That is not affecting your problem over there. What's affecting the problem is that water coming down that ditch at a rapid rate, and it's moving through there. and it's taking rock with it, you know. And then we need to find out how that water's getting up there, because there's a serious drainage problem on that hill somewhere to do what it's doing up there. That's a big hole right there. That water is coming down there pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know where
it's-
it's coming, because there's not much on the side of
No.
your building.
And it's only gotten that way in the past couple of months, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, we need something happy over there in the big rain.
I'll swim it.
Rain comes, well, somebody needs to look at that over there. And I think that would be something the board have to talk about with how much responsibility or how much they want to help out, because we're going to have to spend taxpayer money to do it, you know, so, because I don't think it's in the budget anywhere, so, but stuff we can look at.
So Mr. Schwartz and I have talked about that. I go with Article 7 in there. It says they're responsible for the sidewalls. I think that's what they're responsible for. We need to get in and clean out trees and brush and everything and make sure it's, you know, it's not vegetating up too much. But I don't see us being responsible for those other issues.
It does state, though, that the city will place and maintain adequate riprap at the outfall of the storm sewer pipes. So, I mean, you could say that I will put it around that pipe, but that's not really considered the outfall. Wouldn't the outfall be where the water comes out of the pipe?
Maybe right here.
I mean, I think that would be something that is a topic of discussion. I mean, you could say it's there, I could say it's on the other side. I could say the water outfalls out the pipe to the other side, so wouldn't the city be responsible for that? Especially if they placed it from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, we can argue this all day long.
Well,
We
yeah,
could, I mean, and that's why when I.
That's the kind of rock that needs to be on the other side of the
Yeah.
ditch right there.
Oh, yeah. And that's
Somebody did it
what,
right over here.
and that's what Bowman's has bid. I mean, Todd looked at it and he said, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right.
I would have.
You know, we don't want to do it again. We don't. We want to get in there. We want to fix it right, and that's why, you know, I'm not asking. I'm asking for the part of it where I feel that there is some sort of liability.
Just across from those two pipes.
That's it. That's it, and not even to take the entire expense, just either a material or a labor cost, one of the two.
Well, I think that's,
If we could get a figure for.
yeah, we need to get a total.
Like, the
How much
city-
money, how much money you asking us? If you can do that?
Yes, sir.
Bring that back and we'll look at it and go from
Okay.
there.
I'll get back with Todd. I'll lay it out, and I tell you, either Mr. Wilson or Happy, one of you two,
Yeah.
we can go over there and kind of lay something out so we can get a better idea. Okay. Thank you all very much
Thank
for
you
your
very
time.
much.
Is it going to be possible also to look at this agreement, and if we do make a serious investment in improving this, to come up with a new, very specific agreement? So we don't
I'm liking,
cover this in the future?
we need to just keep to what the agreement says. We maintain keeping the weeds out of the ditch. That's what we do.
So that's what you're saying, is put that in there. All we're responsible for is
Right,
maintaining.
yes.
Whatever comes out of the stormwater.
Just
fund
because
at
we're going to
that
have,
point.
if we do end up helping with these improvements, I still want it to be clear that just because we did it, doesn't mean that
Right.
we're going to do it again in 5 years.
Absolutely.
I would just like something a little more specific
Right.
defining our role.
Well, that's something. Yeah, okay.
We'll talk. We'll discuss. Confidentially?
We dismiss him?
Yeah, he can leave now.
You're dismissing. Thanks for your help.
If we don't see you, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
There, Mark.
So the other part of stormwater is that we included the Cochrane proposal for working on 3 areas of concern for stormwater issues. So one of the questions that came to us was that what about the Corps of Engineers when they did the review for the levee? Do they have the hydrology studies? And they've got very generic and general stuff. What we're looking at is being specific as to an area, what's the hydrology there, and what are the impediments to get it to either, well, most of them are going, no, take that back. One of them is going to South Gabourey Creek, the other is going across the highway. So what are the impediments to get that water from point A to point B without flooding everybody in between? So that's what this agreement is, this is what we asked them to look at. So this is the cost that you're looking at. It's about $25,000 for 3 different areas.
Can you, I'm sorry, very briefly, could you define those areas and how we came up with those? I've heard from some folks in Ward 1 that are really concerned about ongoing problems at Jefferson and Second, that area.
Jefferson Second, Washington and Second Street?
Excuse me, Washington and Second.
So,
And I would like to just be able to explain why we're holding off on that area and going with these three areas.
They were not top of mind. We've been discussing mostly with these three areas since August when we had the heavy rain. So these are the areas that we've been focusing on. So when we sat down, these are the areas we talked about. That request came in for the downtown area after we had already asked them to take a look at this.
Okay.
But it kind of gives you an idea of what that cost is going to be to do the hydrology and figure out what the concerns are there. So you've got a large drainage area number one, which is the northwest part of our community. Figuring out, there is a break up there on Ridgeway that begins to go to the north, and then goes to North Gabbery Creek. So, but this is the area that's coming south and then down along Market Street through private property, and then eventually gets to South Gabbery Creek. That seemed to be one of the major areas that we had discussion with residents. The other is looking again at the area over on Park and Cedar and going to Shoes. And then another area is what drains in International Subdivision, because everything's over land there that the water eventually goes to Lynn Street, cuts across, then goes underground, under 61.
Yeah, the Valley Springs.
Yeah, and then hits the Valley Springs sinkhole. So these are the three areas that we've had people in talking to us about. So your larger area is drainage area number one, which is probably a majority of that 25,000. But you, again, can figure that you're looking at $8,000 to $15,000 per area just to do the hydrology, to figure out where that what the water amounts are, the cubic feet per CFS, and then how's it getting to the creeks and eventually getting out of the city.
After you had pushed that further and you got a hold of the Corps, you haven't heard back from them.
We
It's
asked them,
just hard to imagine that, the flow in those creeks and the amount they have to pump, that area goes beyond the city limits, I realize that, but it seems like they would have had to take that into consideration also.
I think they take it into consideration, but what we're asking is where are the choke points?
Right.
Where all that water comes together, where's that choke point? And they did not study that. I mean, all they looked at was just total hydrology, what's getting into those creeks, getting in behind the levee, and then how to get it pumped out.
Right.
Which really had no bearing on any of it. It has bearing, the water's getting there sooner or later, but they're more concerned about the water that's sitting in the field down there because they figured all that, because whenever you have a big rain, it chokes up, all those fields floods. That's holding water until it can be pumped across to high water.
So my appreciation to Cochran for coming up with this based on some of the discussions that we've had. We can also contact others. I've gotten recommendations about other engineers if you're interested in pursuing it further with, we can, if you want to pursue this further and actually get into it, doing the engineering, then we can go out for an RFQ, find an engineer to do that work, and then we can expand how many areas we want to look at, but this is what we've started with at least. The idea was to find out how much it was going to cost.
Now, if there was anything like Second Street, problem on Second Street, the Corps should be something on that, because there's a pipe that goes through the levee by the creek to get that water out there to the creek. So that wasn't put in there.
Yeah, but that pipe has a flap on it, so when there's water in the creek, it closes, and that's
Yeah.
where you're catching the water is then on Washington Street.
Yeah, so that's a choke point. So, and that's what happens when we have to put a pump down in there. The water's backed up and it's too high, and then that water can't go through there, so we have to pump it across. But in a flash flood, usually that water gets through there. It builds up on Second Street, but it does flow out. But when it stays there for a couple days, then you have to pump it across, because everything else is backed up. So.
And I know that some of the residents in that area that's been explained, they've seen maybe not seen the pumps, but
Yes.
Gary went down and explained to them how it all worked and everything. I know we've got some new residents, so that might be warranted again, just to explain how that all works.
That's a good idea, because a lot of folks, if I lived in that flood, and they're living in a, you know, the levee's protecting them, but it's still a floodplain down there. And to know the water gets down there, and old Ernie here loves giving people the tour of the pump stations and stuff like that, so, and to understand that, because it's hard for people to understand that. And they think you put a pump in there, we've had somebody put a pump in there, well, just pump it. Well, when you're pumping that amount of water, it's gotta be a massive pump, and it's gotta be maintained, and it's, well, since we bought the new pump to put there, we haven't even used it, have we? Down there for that purpose.
We had it set there a couple times.
Yeah, we had it close, we come close, just in case, but we never had to use it.
So specifically, you need this evening in the work session for us to give you guidance on how to respond to Cochran's proposal by roughly the week of Christmas, right? Is that what, is my understanding close on that?
Well, I mean, it'll take them time to do the project. If we don't get them anything back until January, I mean, they'll just start at that point. I don't think that
Okay.
price is gonna change. And yes, they try to keep it for 30 days, but I don't think
Okay,
that price.
because they've guaranteed you 30 days in this proposal from 11/23.
Right, but we don't have money budgeted for stormwater for this amount, so
Yeah.
we're looking at that issue as well. Where do we want to pull that from?
Okay. I'm just saying that's, for me personally, that's a lot of pressure on me this evening, but if that's not a valid concern, then I don't worry about that.
I
As
think,
much, I don't worry about that.
I think it's the same as what we're trying to work with them on the electric is, we've kind of dragged this out a little bit, and, we're still gonna do the electric with them. I think with this, we can drag it along a little bit too.
Okay.
Because it's a professional agreement and you have to be secure in your decision.
Okay, so no need for revision, you have that well in hand, you're working with?
Do you want to, it has been discussed to me that maybe we ought to find other engineers, not just go with Cochran, or do you want to pursue this because we have a relationship with Cochran? Do you want to look at other areas that we would want to then put into the overall project?
And we've told people we're gonna do this.
Right, well, and you've got solid recommendations from Farmington, Perryville? Like you've got firms lined up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should entertain, compete that business between everybody involved and.
So you're not competing on the base price, you're just competing on the ability to do the work. This is not a bid project, this is a qualifications type project.
Okay.
So all you're looking at
Okay.
is somebody that can do it. And who you feel comfortable with, think can do the best job for you. That's how we go out for RFQ. We don't bid this. It's not that type of situation.
Has Cochran provided us any information where they've done this in other places, or?
We didn't get into the specifics on that. When we first talked about it, they were thinking we were looking at I&I. So that's what goes into the water system. And we said, no, we're looking for more of an overland type of hydrology study. So they've done the hydrology studies. That's not the issue. It's looking at the choke points and trying to figure out how to fix them or what corrections can be made, and identifying them.
But Happy, in a scenario where everybody who has interest is qualified and we review and agree, we would consider price on a proposal, right?
So you do that after you've selected your groups, like as in a 1, 2, 3 type of selection. So you go and talk to the first group that you want to work with, and you then talk price after you've agreed to everything else. And if you don't agree with that price, then you go to the next group.
Okay, all right.
So you'd said $8,000 to $10,000 per area is what they,
I'm figuring about $8,000 to $15,000 per area.
Per
Depends on how big it is. You look at area number 1, I think that's the majority of that 25,000. And then when you break it up, your price is going to go up a little bit. But I think those other areas are smaller, and you're probably looking at $8,000, $5,000 to $8,000.
but this is just for 3 specifics, and then now we've got a Second Street inquiry, and how many more is out there?
Because my estimate, and I don't know if this includes all of them, but I'm thinking we've got 7 or 8 watersheds that we have to deal with. So, yeah, this doesn't include all of them. This is just the ones that we've had discussion on.
So I'm probably just going to think out loud here on this one because I'm not sure exactly how I want to say it, but what I want to move forward with something like this because obviously stormwater is something we've got to address and we've just kicked the can down the road. What I don't want to do is jump into it too fast that we haven't thought about how we're going to implement. You know, because we can get the study back and be like, oh yeah, it chokes up here, like there's a, but, you know, two things that I want out of the study are to, some clarity on what is or isn't the city's responsibility on this, because stormwater by ordinance is property owners' responsibility in majority, so make sure that of areas that might have some city responsibility, but also to have a plan so that I can go back to my constituents when they come to me and say, well, actually on your property, here's something that you could do. But, you know, largely their issue might be because of the property 2 houses up. And so I don't know if there's areas of enforcement that we need to look at. Or some way to subsidize or you know build some sort of program to help financially. I just, if we spend $25,000 plus on a plan like this and then have no way of effectively implementing it within 10 years, that's $25,000 plus down the drain if we're not able to look at how we're gonna do this. So I think it's definitely going to require a lot of public input on this, and not just from the property owners that we've talked to so far. You know, the whole town needs to be made aware, like, this is what we're going to do, and, you know, everybody might have a little responsibility in making this happen, and, you know, we can only twist arms so much, but that's just me thinking out loud.
Unfortunately, this doesn't affect a lot of people. That's the hardest thing is it doesn't, well, I live up here, it's not my problem.
Yeah, but,
you know, but I'm going to have to pay for it.
But
I'm going to have to help, and I like that. I like your thinking on that.
Yeah, but and we know it's you know, the further the water moves down the road, it's collecting a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and so the person at the bottom of the hill. So while my house on the top of the hill isn't flooding, the person at the bottom of the hill is, because, you know, maybe there's something that we could do to slow something down at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
So it's like this collective thing, but my only ounce of hesitation is, if we spend all this money, how do we effectively implement it? And maybe there's not much we can do, but I just want to, I don't know.
Does this plan do what she's asking as far as not only identifying the problems, but whether or not they're our responsibility or not?
I don't think they can make that kind of judgment, but they can identify where the problems are.
But it's still safe to say that implicating a plan is going to cost us way more than this $25,000.
Yeah.
Which, you know, now we at least have something to go with, but we don't actually regulate any residential stormwater runoff, though, do we? But we do some commercial.
It's different if you're talking about new construction where we require either a detention basin or some way to detain the water. By ordinance, you have to commercially, residential.
Right, strictly commercially.
Right. So if a new subdivision would go in, then there would be stormwater detention because it's regulated by code. So old subdivisions, there was no regulating.
And that's where most of our problem is.
Yeah. But we also are getting the 4-inch rains in 45 minutes. And, that was just not, it was never figured into the plan.
Yeah. But we don't know what the rain's going to do in the future, so we have to make these plans as if it's going to continue to get worse.
I think you have to almost, this is the start.
Yeah.
We have to find out, first of all, if we're going to do anything, we got to find out, well, what can we do?
Yeah.
So if you don't have this, you're never going to know what you can do. And to worry about all the other stuff in there is to get the plan and say, well, then that's when the work begins. And at least at least we're making an effort to do something instead of just saying, well, okay, let's not worry about it until we get another 4-inch rain. I think.
That's why I made the comment, you
Yeah.
know, that we needed to at least progress.
We need to find out what the problem is,
Yeah.
and then we have to decide, or somebody's gonna have to decide, it might not be anybody at this table, but where we go from
Yeah.
here. And we can't even say, somebody might say, well, we're not gonna do anything.
Yeah.
But we can't, we're only held accountable for what we're doing here right now.
Yeah, and I could agree with that, and honestly, I could vote on that, but I just wanted those thoughts on the table
Yes.
for the public, so that can encourage them to come out here and discuss this with us.
So,
You know, and even, you know, with that and stuff, I would hope them through their professional experience, if they have experience in this, that they could, and I realize no two areas are the same, but, you know, give us something a little more that we can work with. You know, if this is this much to do the survey, give us some kind of ballpark figure to remediate the problem. You know, and I would hope if they've done this before, they have some, you know, ballpark figure in it too. How do we pay for it? You know, bond issue, I mean, where are our options there to be able to continue this conversation? We need to know the whole program, not just, here's a cost estimate on getting it, because I'm afraid like you, if we get this, you know, we go spend $25,000, $30,000, whatever and stuff, and we get a nice set of plans or an outline of plans and stuff, and we don't do anything with it, that's not a wise expenditure. But I'd like to know the whole program so we can at least wrap our arms around it and say, you know, and two, we have something to go back with the people, and this is how we have to pay for it.
I'd like to see our mission be education to the community, because
Yeah,
we all know that we may go through this exercise and then 8 new people may not implement anything that we think. So the people that vote, live here, pay taxes, they need to at least know how much effort is involved. You know, I think that's all we can do as a body.
And if we can identify some trouble spots, and then those property owners come to us, we'd be like, well, here's something you can maybe do to solve it, or fix that
A
issue.
little skeptical about just doing the 3, and Mike, I think that's what you, earlier in the meeting, you know, we need to have, you know, if we're gonna fix a problem and stuff, how do we fix it? Because it might just be like paving streets, we have to do something this year, something next year, and on into the future and stuff, but this just, I mean, it's an idea, that's all it is, but we need the bigger picture, a further discussion, and, you know, to educate people on this is how it's gonna have to take care of the problems and stuff, because it is a problem and it's gonna get worse.
So as you indicated, Happy, this study's gonna be checking out where the choke points are.
Right.
So you got the choke point, you wanna fix one, and then you fix another, and then you fix another. I mean, maybe you can't do every
Well,
one.
some of them are at MoDOT's, you know.
Right,
so
some
we-
of them are in ours.
Right.
But I
they
guess
need
if we
to
have
be
a study, we could be like,
identified.
MoDOT, you're causing a problem.
Well,
Or-
but that
or
doesn't seem to have
something.
made any difference, because that's what the study down in Cedar and Park, where
Yeah.
the water goes by shoes, we've got that study. And it's, where it goes under 32, you know, they don't feel it's necessary to replace that. So that stops that water from flowing as well as it needs to.
Yeah. But at least we've got our understanding, so if it is
I don't know.
becomes a liability issue, we know where the liability could potentially
Right.
be.
And there may be some stuff on our property that we can fix, you know, remove, whatever, you know, open it up a little bit, or there may be some choke points that's on, you know, flood by our property or along the right-of-ways that we can take care of, but, you know, again, where do we want to start and where do you want to end with that?
And I can support moving forward with pursuing this, but really trying to invite the public out to the conversation.
And that can be part of the RFQ, it has to have some public input.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, do we just go with Cochran, or do we want to go with, have him look and get some other input?
I think we I mean, my opinion is we look and see, I don't know what Cochran's expertise is and stuff like that, but I just want to make sure whatever dollars we spend, we get the best.
So we'll look for some other, see if some other people are interested in doing the study.
Yeah.
And then figuring out how much it's gonna cost. So that'd be the first good step to move on, I think.
You know, talk
Everybody
to
agree
other
with that?
cities.
Yeah.
You know, we're not the only ones with this problem. Talk to other cities that's maybe had it, addressed it, and see where they're.
Right, okay. Good, let's move on.
All right. Farm leases are due and to be renewed this year. Kurtz Farms has the ones over by the levee. And then we've got 2 other spots that we lease out. One is to Mr. Valley and then the other is to Mr. Siebert. So we've got new farm leases, and I talked with Brian Kurtz about the areas and the way that we charge for them. He's got a couple areas that they get wet on this side of the levee. We all know it gets wet on the east side, but on this side, there are a couple areas where it backs up first before the pumps are turned on, so it'll stay wet longer. So his request was that we would allow those to be charged the same as what's on the east side. So the ratio of dry to wet ends up being more, there's more of the wet ground than there is the dry ground. So you'll have, where the $110 charge is going to be more property than it was before, as opposed to the $115 charge per acre. So my question is there any issues that you have with this that we move forward? We also have new contracts. One thing that Mr. Kurtz said was they would sign contracts with others, and they would make sure it's like a 5-year contract, and the rate didn't change. Ours was set up by Martin Thoma, and he had a $5 increase every year. So I don't know, what we would do with this contract is we would have to notify them every year about the increase. So if we don't want to raise it, we can wait 5 years and then decide we want to raise it, then you just notify them, but the contract stays in place. So it's not a 5-year contract, because Mark does not like 5-year contracts, or contracts that have a time stipulation. We work that out. But so in this case, this contract stays in effect until we say we're done. They tell us they're done, or we also, if we look for a price increase, we have to notify them and then discuss and work it out from there.
Martin, what other liabilities or what liabilities do we have with that property? Is there any insurance or anything that we pay?
It works through the levy commission.
So, I mean, from the city's expense, we're not looking at having increases for...
It's what we're paying now, and what levy district's paying now. Because it's levy commission listed as a property owner. We just manage it.
Because I know at least that I'm involved in does go $5 a year increase on farm property.
Right. And that's fine if you want to do that.
It's a prime piece. It is, it's prime down there, Joe.
Plus you got the first year free, remember?
Yeah.
See what's down there too, right?
It's lush.
I know.
Fertile ground, real fertile.
Right next to a national park.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Siebert also is not going to be farming at the areas that he has been farming, but his son Byron is going to take over, so we would be contracting with him instead of with Mr. Siebert, so, Joe Siebert. So if that's okay, if there's an issue with that, I'm just wanting to make sure you're okay. But these will be going on for a while, these contracts.
So how long are we going to contract?
Again, Mark doesn't want end dates. It's just, in 5 years, we're going to reassess and then talk about it again then and say, do you want to, if we want to increase the price every year, we can. If we want to, we just have to notify them. It's just, in this case, we're just setting us a basic amount. We're changing how we're charging for the properties, and that we're also renewing the leases that are up, because previous attorney liked to have 5-year leases. So some changes in philosophy. So if it's okay to move forward, we'll just move forward with these leases. And they'll be brought back as ordinances at the next meeting. Okay. Now we get into streets. So you have your list the streets that we recommended, those haven't changed since last we talked. We have a little money to play with. I've also, so in the spreadsheet that I've given you, I've also included the cemetery extension, because if we're gonna go out for street repaving, we might as well include that as well with the contractor. And then I've also included just the price of the street maintenance program. So this is done by, in this case, Cochran. I've seen the reports they come back with. They're easy to work with and very clear as to what can be done and based on what our budget is. So they can figure that out as to how long it's going to take to do all of your streets and then come back and start over again. So they're figuring a 15-year plan is what it would take us to work through all of our streets in town. And then they would list where to do it. And most of the time, they've clustered, because it's easier to mobilize in one area and not be spread all over town. However, that's not the political thing. So I'll just warn you about that. You know, if we're doing all the streets up in Buck's neighborhood, then everybody in Ashley's neighborhood's mad at us.
Everybody in my neighborhood is mad at you. No, just kidding.
So, but what you can always say is, we're gonna get to you, and here's when we're gonna do it.
We have a hard date then.
Yeah, we did that in Festus. We had $500,000 we spent every year.
Wow.
We worked from neighborhood to neighborhood, and I'd hear about it. It's like, we're gonna get to you in 2016. Trust me, we'll get to you in 2018. And we've gotten that point. I think they've now finished everything in the city. So now they're back to starting over again. So it works. So that would also be included in what you have extra, to include that type of survey. It helps us to plan a little better. It helps you all to plan a little better. I mean, you'd have it, have it spread out, but I don't mind going through these spreadsheets every time and saying, here's what our recommendations are. But you get the feedback from your neighbors, and there's nothing, we kind of base it on what we assume, or what we figure are the roads that need the worst. So you've got the listing. Opening it up for discussion, because I would like to put this out for bid in January, or if we want to delay it a little bit, into January, February. But if we can get it out there.
I want to call on Steve for a minute. With going with Alliance on our public works and stuff, I mean, and part of the reason we did that was for some expertise and training and things. Is this something we need to consider seriously?
A street replacement program?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great idea. I'm telling you, that's a win-win, I think. Make sure you look at Academy over there, it's pretty bad.
That's what we're getting all that asphalt for.
Is it? Hear that, Bob, Buck? Yeah, I think that's your ward.
Aren't we redistricting the words?
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, we're working on that.
It don't matter, you let me know who it is, I'll find out.
Happy, have you ever worked with one of these, you said?
Yeah, Festus. Yeah, Festus.
I think it's a good idea.
I do too. I think January.
Yeah.
So what all did they provide? Just a...
They did a whole spreadsheet as to neighborhoods. They would divide it up into neighborhoods, also list out the streets, and also include a map that showed where the first 5 years where you're going to be. And then from there on, you just go with the spreadsheet as to what neighborhoods are coming up.
But did they actually provide any design for those streets, saying they needed to be tore out, new base, or is this just a road map?
It's a road map.
A lot of money for a road map.
They would make recommendations as to whether you should, do a thin material overlay or full asphalt removal, that kind of stuff. So we did have some specifics like that. I don't know if it would get into what you're looking at is, if we're looking at a full street removal and new base and then, and then surfacing.
Because we determine that ourselves, don't we?
Yeah.
Say it, Joe.
What?
An opinion.
Oh, I don't have any.
I have one, I like it, and I think we should go.
I think so, I think it takes the guesswork out of everything.
Yes,
think,
I love
we-
to be able to go to constituents and say, we're gonna hit you.
Yeah, absolutely, I think
love
it's a
it.
good idea.
Love it, love it, love it.
So they do
Well,
get
I
into,
mean,
some-
no, go ahead.
they get into some specifics, as he says, the owner's gonna provide prescriptions and justifications for recommended paving treatments. So, again, they may not pothole every street in town, but they'll have an idea what we should be preparing to pave. And that would be based on, in the budget as well.
We only got so much money to work with every year. Well, happy, what do you think?
Well, I mean, we just need to determine if we want to add that, if you want to go with the recommended streets, if there's other streets that you want to add. We went down to Audubon, dug out a little pothole, there's about 2 inches of paving on that street, and it's on dirt. So there is no base.
That's terrible.
So I suspect most of the streets in there are going to be that way.
Buck, how'd you let that happen? He's been on the board, he was probably a board, were you on the board when they put all that in?
Probably so.
Yeah. So we would probably have to, wherever we have, where it's deteriorated and we have alligator cracking, we would have to dig that out, build the base back up.
Yeah.
And then, the rest of it could probably be paved over, giving you 4 inches of thickness, but I don't know what it's like underneath.
And price tag on that is substantial.
Well, Steve, you've dug water lines over in those streets, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you run into that too, the base is not very good?
Yeah, we
Okay.
dug it up today, actually.
I mean, though, even when you were digging water, so I know you're on one of those streets where you go down and do a water line or sewer line somewhere.
Yeah, most of them we don't even have to cut, they're just broke up and so thin. you
Yeah,
just go straight through 'em.
that's the problem.
And then this street maintenance program would, I'm assuming, since Cochran also did the water line long-term plan, they would work in conjunction, they would consider the water line plan when considering the street maintenance.
Yeah, so that was a little different in that we didn't do engineering every time for that job. Water line is underground, so you have to get all the surveying done and then usually present that to the state as to, we've had engineering. Street doesn't require that.
Right, but I mean, if we're gonna remove, we know we're gonna have to repave a street because that's in the water line plan, we're gonna see that in this
Yes.
street maintenance plan.
I'm sorry, yes, we'll
Okay.
give them the 10-year plan and
Right.
say, here's where we're going to be, we need to make sure we do that, yeah.
And they will keep that in mind as they go through, so 1 year they're not saying, we need to replace these 20 streets, oh, but then there's also another 10 getting you water lines.
Next year, we're tearing them out.
Right, yeah, that too, but that's the other.
Same.
So Javi, if I'm reading this correctly, the total cost, the 204, that does not include the street maintenance.
No,
So
it
we're
does not.
still the 78,568 surplus. So if we add the street maintenance program, that's gonna put us at closer to 50,000 still to play with.
Yeah, that's it through.
Thank you. And that's if we go everything recommended with Parkwood, Mike's favorite, still ARPA funds.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna throw that in there for you, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Make sure somebody points it
We
out.
all appreciate it.
Yep, yep.
Let me see your list real quick.
Well, I'd be all for going with the recommendations and including the street maintenance program.
That'll also give us some money if we do have something come up that we want to do in the next year. We know we have it in the budget to jump on something, or it can be stormwater, or, you can just, whatever you think needs to be that's, is a street maintenance issue, we will have some money that we know is left in there.
So knowing what we know about like Audubon and the lack of support for that road under, the base and stuff, can I put in a request that if we do the street maintenance program, that neighborhood is possibly prioritized a little bit? Not necessarily funding wise, but because of the issues or whatever.
That
You know what I
seems
mean?
very practical, yeah.
But isn't that the whole point of
Yeah.
the program? I mean, that's what they're gonna be looking into.
Yeah, but it's like if we're starting to line out the budget, well, we can get more done first if we do these smaller
Oh, sure. I
streets.
see what you mean.
I don't know how it's gonna work, but that's just
Yeah.
my way of thinking, but it's like,
You always start in the mayor's neighborhood, just so you're aware.
well, if anybody in Ward 4 want to run for mayor.
It's on video, don't worry about it.
I
Perfect.
thought we identified a problem with yours.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I sent it to him via text.
There was new sewer lines put on Academy, and they never did get a fresh coat of paving asphalt on
Yeah,
there.
that was my only comment, was that,
I agree with that, I agree with that. I don't,
that I don't necessarily want to prioritize more up front versus,
Yeah.
important projects.
yeah.
So
And
like,
infrastructure,
any planning, it's like the supervised plan.
yeah.
They'll bring it to you and say, here's what we're looking at. Any
I'll be like,
comments? What
okay,
do-
move
yeah,
those
What do you want to,
streets
yeah.
right here.
So we're not bound by their suggestions.
Do what?
We're not bound by their suggestions, right?
No, I mean, even the plan, we would change, if we went down a street and went, that does not need full depth paving, repaving, we'll just put a cap on it. We did that. I mean, that is up to us to make final decisions on that. But you can look at it before you adopt it and say, nah, we want to do this order
Yeah,
of
okay.
things. So, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just a good idea. More
But-
professional and everything. And then people see, hey, they got a plan, they're doing something. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and I've seen some, you mentioned Festus, and I've seen some of their updates,
Yeah.
just to their announcements to the public, and it seems like a really good program that they've got there with confidence, and the public has confidence in
Yeah.
their program, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, we will move forward with those and get ready to go out for bids in January. There we go. Okay, this is the mayor's request, is a Stupi Memorial.
Yeah, I had a good friend of John's come to me and asked about that, about doing some kind of memorial. He had suggested on Market Street, doing a topper up there, like a memorial boulevard. Had some feedback from from Joe, we talked about it, that wouldn't be the street to do, it would be either 10th Street. Then I got some input too about another guy, a friend of John, says on this Missouri sign down here, maybe putting a memorial on that sign. John was very instrumental in getting that sign in there and securing the land to get the sign, so I thought that was a good idea too, so. But I didn't want to do, and I told this guy that, the board, if it's going to be anything on the street or anything to do with the board's got to approve all that, so I just wanted to bring it up, so.
So there is that little road that runs along where Buckeyes is going in now.
10th Street.
No, it comes off of 10th Street,
Oh,
goes
yeah.
into, so that is not named, but that is a city right-of-way, city,
Yeah.
that's an option. And it's right there
Never thought of that.
where the salvage yard was.
Yeah.
Well, the concerns that I've heard, which I've relayed to the mayor, were the fact that Market Street is a main thoroughfare, and, John obviously lived on Market Street, but he didn't live there very long. However, the business itself and the family home, for many, many
10th
years, was on 10th Street. And if
Yeah.
we're gonna do a street in honor of John, it should be the one that they are connected to the most, the longest.
Yeah.
Nobody had a problem doing something, but they didn't think Market was appropriate.
Yeah.
Number one, that's a private residence.
Yeah.
He didn't operate out of there, let's keep that, we're honoring the man and the business that he provided, so
Well, I
let's
was.
keep it in that
yeah.
area.
In 10th Street, I don't want to change it. It's always going to be, if you live on 10th Street, you live on 10th Street. It's just, like downtown, they put on the little topper, Gary made them up there in the French, the name of the street.
Very
You
cool.
can do the same thing on top of 10th Street as a memorial, or I even like that idea about that street that's going back. That's a good idea if it's not named. That would be, then you could name that street, so.
That'd be cool.
I think whatever the family would be comfortable with out of our possible options, that
Yeah.
the board would be.
Okay. Well, and that's the cool thing about
We've
it.
got three options, I think.
Yeah, that's
I think
either,
going
yeah.
to the family.
Yeah, either going across 10th Street
what
with
needs
a
the most
topper
room.
or renaming that street. And I hadn't even talked to the family, and I asked that question. I haven't talked to Mary about it, you know? Or putting which down here, it's not, it's really, that's, the board doesn't even have to prove that. Nobody has to prove that. I don't, to this day, I don't even know who owns the sign.
I know, that's not our land though, so we may have to check with the property owner.
Now, it's Miss Lillian. I know who owns the land, yeah, so.
I think those are three good options.
I think so too,
I'd like to go with
and that's what I wanted
whatever.
to run it across, because,
Yeah.
you know,
That was brilliant.
and I'll run with that, and we'll go from there, okay?
You know, Paul, because he was instrumental in out here, you know, this being the more visual,
Yeah,
you know, I kind of like that one, but I mean, Joe's
Yeah.
point about down there, of course, the little, I mean, we can do more than one.
I was gonna say, doesn't mean you can't do more than one.
Because he did more than one thing
Oh
for
my
his
God,
community.
yeah.
So, I
absolutely,
mean,
so. I like the idea of that street going back there, and I think those guys over there that came to the meeting and wanted to name the street, rename the street or whatever, that's a pretty cool idea there, so.
That was David Boda's idea. So
Yeah.
if it goes haywire, it's all his fault.
Yeah, so, okay. I have nothing else. Anybody have anything else? Any other business, Happy? Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.